Today is day one of the FIDE Chess.com Nations Cup. As we are all still at home, the chess online continues to shine. The chess just keeps on coming. The teams that are taking part in the Nations Cup are Europe, Russia, China, India, USA and the rest of the world. In this video, I want to look at the best game that I can find from round 1 and round 2. We will be looking at Aronian versus Artemiev. But first up, a player introduction. Artemiev, Russian player, 22 years old, world number 14, with a rapid rating of 2769. Aronian, from Armenia, 37 years old, world number 9 with a rapid rating 2778. Let's check out this wonderful game. Artemiev has white, Aronian has black. The game began. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, the Nimzo-Indian Defence. Bishop d2, breaking the pin. But it looks like a passive move. If this was played 10, 20 years ago, you may be saying, white has no idea what he's doing. He shouldn't be playing a passive move like this. He should be playing maybe e3. Or he could be playing knight f3. Or queen c2, a very popular option. But this move is now getting very, very popular. Bishop d2, castle, knight f3. Notice both sides have all 4 minor pieces. Let's see what happens. c5 was played by Aronian, but I suggest checking out an amazing Jerusalem gem of a game. I will attach this game in the top right corner and in the description below. In that game, b6, e3, bishop b7, bishop d3, d5, take, and we have a completely different structure. This was Wei versus Carlsen, and it was one of the most amazing games I had ever seen. Go check that out later. Now back to this game, c5 was played by Aronian, a3, forcing the capture, take, and knight e4. This is the purpose of black's strategy. You give up the bishop pair, but you get a knight in the middle on e4. The bishop on c3 cannot go anywhere, so let's defend with rook c1, b6, g3, bishop b7, bishop g2, and here Aronian gives up the knight for the bishop. Knight takes bishop, rook takes knight. And maybe this is one reason this setup is not so popular. Check it out. At the beginning, we start with 4 minor pieces each, but here we only have 2 sets of minor pieces. Only a knight and bishop for both sides. So black has used a nice strategy because he doesn't have as much space as white. It's good to swap off pieces. C takes d4, a huge decision by Aronian. Another option was just to play d6 and maybe the knight can go to d7 to f6. But c takes d4 is a huge decision because after queen d4 there is very unpleasant pressure on the d-pawn. Let's see what happens. Knight c6, queen back to d2, queen e7, castle, rook d8, planning d5, so white stops it with e4. White can continue to build with rook d1 next, and maybe the other rook to d3. Rook c8, rook d1, d6, and now b3. Got to be careful here. You don't want to play rook d3 at the moment, which looks amazing. The Alekhine gun on the d-file because knight a5 is a big problem. The knight attacks the pawn on c4, but the bishop on b7 also attacks the pawn on e4. One of these pawns will drop. White is in trouble. So firstly, Artemiev just defends the c4 pawn with b3, knight e5, knight d4. No trades, because white has more space. So let's not trade pieces. Also makes the game more interesting. a6, stopping the knight coming into b5. Rook e3. Rook is not doing a great job on the c-file. Queen c7, h3, h6. And white can get ready with king h2 and f4. Queen b2, queen c5, planning b5 to free himself. To create a pawn break to free the black position. White says no, a4 played. King f8. Put the king on e7, why not? King h2, and here a huge decision by Aronian playing a5. This move is so committal. I feel it is a move you should never play. because the b5 square now belongs to white. A better move would just be to wait, maybe drop the queen back, you see. Maybe the queen can go to c7, the knight can go to d7. However, a5 played, queen e2, knight c6, rook d3. Aronian swaps, take, and white has very unpleasant pressure on the d file. Rook c7, queen d2, we have the Alekhine's gun, rook d7, rook d3, king e7, f4. Black is just sitting, black is just waiting. Bishop c6, rook f1, hinting at f5. And here Aronian loses his patience, he plays g5. Which looks okay, you're trying to get some space of yours on the king side, but it does open a file for the white rook. Artemiev now takes back with the pawn. Notice queen g5 is not possible because of a cool move, maybe queen f2. Attacking the pawn on b6, but also the pawn on f7. After black plays h takes g5, pause the video to find a tactic. How can white exploit the fact that the king is in the middle? This pawn is only defended by the black queen. I will give you 5 seconds. The stunning move, and the reason I wanted to show this game, rook d5 played. In the game, bishop takes d5 was played. Let's check out pawn takes first. Black should be checkmated very soon. Queen g5 check, king f8, we can take first. If you move the bishop, then queen h6 check, and then the rook can join the party. If you go king g8, rook f4, planning rook g4 is checkmate very soon. If you go f5, you can take, and then rook g5 next. Now rook g7, it does stop it, but white can now go queen e6 check, and it should be mate very soon. The king can only go to h8, rook h5 check, rook h7, and we have a nice pattern. The queen and the rook just oscillate, and then we get checkmate. Queen f6 check, the king moves, rook g5 is mate. So a very nice variation. After rook d5, back to the game. Bishop takes d5 played, but same idea, because the queen on c5 cannot protect the pawn on g5. So queen takes g5 check, king f8, and now c takes d5. I was surprised by this decision because I thought you'd play e takes d5 and then the bishop can come in to the position more easily, but we have another stunning move coming up. The second reason I wanted to show this amazing game, rook e7 played. If you play e takes d5, we can keep checking the king like before. So let's go queen h6 check. If you go king e8, let's check first and then check, just forcing the king on the back, and we have a nice way for the rook to come in. Rook f5, rook h5, and then rook h8 will be checkmate. So if we play that, rook f5 is also brilliant because it stops black from playing d4, then the queen can come into the game. Rook e7, maybe the king can go to d7 as an escape square. And now there's a brilliant move here by white, because if black can escape, maybe he's doing okay. Check out the light squares. Pause the video to have a go. What did white play now? The brilliant move is bishop f1. Planning to throw a deadly check, and that will be it. There's no good way to stop it. If you try to run, then bishop b5 check, and that's it. Queen takes e7 check. Notice here there's no good check with the queen. If you just go queen c2 check, the king can just go back to g1. And that's it. If queen c5 check, doesn't matter. Now king h1. No more checks, bishop will come to b5. An amazing variation there. Now back to the game, rook e7 played. Pause the video to find a tactic. What can white play here? So then the queen on c5 no longer attacks the queen on g5. I'll give you 5 seconds. The move is e5. Wow. Just incredible. Rook c8 was played in the game. Let's check out d takes e5 first. The idea was to play d e6, and now there's pressure on f7. If you go queen d4, because this queen is protecting the rook. Also, if this pawn can come forward, then the queen is controlling a lot of the dark squares around the black king. There's a great move here, queen h5. These are the best moves in chess. A double attack. You're threatening rook f7, check with mate soon, and also queen h8 mate. That's why queen h5 is amazing. If you go king g7, then you actually take with the pawn, and then you come back. You can go queen g5 check, but also you can threaten promotion. So if black plays e4, I think you can promote and that's it. I think queen g5 works as well, just to pick up the rook on e7. So that's cool. So back to the game, rook c8 played. And now time for a rook swing, which we saw before. Let's go rook f4. D takes e5, so rook h4 is not actually best. I just confused you deliberately because here there's another good square for the rook. You don't go to h4, you actually go to c4, and there is a big problem. Queen cannot protect the rook on c8. An amazing rook lift, not to the king, but to the queen side. E takes d5 played, and the game is over very soon. Artemiev just throws in a check just to be accurate. Move the king, take, and then queen takes b6. The game is over. Rook c7, and a cool move here, bishop takes d5. You can't take the bishop because the rooks need to protect each other. Rook c2 check, bishop g2, e4, queen b5 check, h4, queen b8 check, king h3, unpinning, f5, queen e5 check, rook e6, queen takes f5, and black resigned. If you play e3, you don't need to take the rook on c2, you can play bishop d5, and then both rooks are attacked, and that is game over. If you move one rook, then you can just play queen takes rook on c2. That's good enough. If you want, you can go queen e5 check, but I think queen c2 is nice, rook d5, that's it. There's no problem. Queen e4 check, the king moves, we take, and then we're good. What a wonderful victory by Artemiev. Check out one video here and another video over here. If you enjoy the show, why not like the video and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Hit that bell to get notified each time I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching.